So a few weeks ago, I was at a dinner party. And when asked about my work, I shared that I was a writer and an entrepreneur. But some of the work that I feel most proud of has been teaching in prisons. Yes, I'm the person who brings mass incarceration into light dinner conversation. And usually I'm ready to engage anyone across the political spectrum in dialogue about this issue. But this time I was caught off guard because my new friend looked at me and he said, with all sincerity, "You are so brave." And his response hit me in the gut because I knew what he meant. I knew all the ugly, ignorant assumptions beneath his compliment. The moment that I said prison, images of irredeemable monsters took over his mind. But it's not just my dinner companion. We've all been fed a mass media diet of cops and robbers, good guys and bad guys, prison breaks and riots. People peer into their TV screens wanting to know what goes on inside of a prison, but not enough to do anything about it. When we think of prisons, we think of a place where we keep the violent, hardened savages. But after 14 years of teaching, writing, and theater in prisons in over 30 US cities, I can assure you that I have not met one savage. I have met mothers and fathers, honor roll students, self-taught artists, a self-published author, scholars, advocates, and educators. I can never forget the young man who stood before my classroom with hands and heart trembling as he recounted the moment that he saw his father for the first time in 30 years. Or the girl who had overnight become known for her violent rage and despite being labeled a monster, when asked to write the one word that best described her, wrote on her paper, "Love." Or the teenage boy, vibrant and witty and smart, who would just light up the room with laughter. He would spend Christmas and New Year's in Rikers Island for jumping a turnstile. He failed to pay $2.75 in train fare, and as a result was now being detained in a jail that cost $208,000 per bed per year. Over the years, I've heard hundreds of stories that have taught me so much about what it means to be human, what it means to be resilient in the face of endless darkness and tragedy. And yes, it's true that there are people in our prisons who have committed devastating acts of harm. And we should all be accountable for any harm that we've caused another person. But accountability is not the same thing as punishment. Accountability restores humanity. Punishment denies it. Accountability says you are worthy, and we believe that you are capable of healing and change. Let's together find a way to restore your place in community. I really believe that we can create this more restorative approach to justice by beginning with the telling of stories. Over the years, I've heard stories create catharsis for the teller and empathy for the listener, but can stories create a truly restorative justice for the millions of people who have been harmed by our criminal justice policies? Because I really do believe that we can design something far better than the current system that we have. In order to investigate this question, I created Mass Story Lab. Mass Story Lab brings together 10 storytellers, 100 community members in one room and one day to imagine a future beyond prisons. The first Mass Story Lab focused on one of the largest and most notorious penal colonies in the country, Rikers Island. Rikers Island has a long history of violence. It is in effect a debtor's prison where over 80% of the people held there are awaiting trial. A growing number of New Yorkers believe that it is time to close Rikers Island for good. I am one of them. So working with formerly incarcerated leaders who have experienced Rikers Island firsthand, we assembled a group of storytellers who each told a story about how Rikers Island changed their life. What became clear is that Rikers Island represents a culture of punishment that is permeating our entire prison system. Closing Rikers Island would send a message to the rest of the country that it is time for a radical remaking of our justice system. After we heard the stories, I turned to the audience and I asked them, do you believe that something must be done about Rikers Island? And every person in that room raised their hand. In just one morning, people who thought they had no opinion about Rikers Island were now advocating for its closure. People who felt its closure was impossible now not only believe that it was possible, but imperative. But Mass Story Lab isn't just about closing a jail, or getting a piece of policy reform passed. It's an opportunity for the people with the most at stake to make their stories the instrument of justice. Because imagine a justice system that builds and sustains communities instead of destroying them. See, my failure at that dinner party was that I didn't start with the stories. Stories build empathy, but not so that we can humanize the incarcerated. People in prison are already human. Hearing a story is an opportunity for you, the listener, to show up more fully in your humanity. Because what you do with it makes you an agent of change. Thank you.